Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. This is going to be a little bit of a longer video. We're going to talk about all of the different MR units that I personally think you should invest in, particularly considering that we have the new quality of life coming out later this week. So no doubt you're considering right now, which MR should I prioritize? Which MRs and below are important to level? Which of them are going to be getting 120? And while I don't have the full information on which of them are getting the 120 and not, I can probably find that, but that's not going to be relevant for us for a little bit. And I have a feeling most of the time, the 120 isn't going to make a giant difference. A lot of the times the 120 is just really getting these units to be a little bit more relevant. And Gummy's been rolling out the 120s for MR units quite quickly. So it actually, pretty much all of them are going to get 120, I would say probably within the next 6 months. First MR, though, that I think is probably the most important is going to be Shell. And I think Shell is one of those units where if you're a brand new player, you definitely should be prioritizing Mont. If you have Mont 99, I think Shell should be everybody's next 99 unit. The reason for that is she has a very good TMR, magic attack up 10, spirit piercing rate up 15, and it's a staff. It's really good. If you're someone who only has 1+5 platinum rod, this is going to be a great substitute if you're running maybe 2 mages in a comp and you don't have that second +5 staff, or maybe you want to run 3 mages for a map. There's so many situations in which having that extra staff is going to be viable and important. Not only that, her abilities and her kit are spot on, and we're talking like really spot on. You can sub her time mage for quicken if you want to participate in arena, right? Or if you want to put her in some type of situation like live PvP, where she can support via green mage abilities and time mage abilities. Or you can sub her thief and she's going to have access to steal heart and steal time. Not only that, no matter what job or what sub job she's on, she does have access to the thief passives. So that's going to be increased agility, increased movement. She also has the time mage passives for increased casting time. I mean, she is just a beast, right? And her mastery ability as well, if I can show you that real quick, I think it'll be right here. Her mastery ability also increases agility and decreases activation time for her casting. So she's going to be one of the fastest units in terms of turn speed, and she's going to be one of the fastest casting units in the game. Overall, she's amazing. You could use her in raids, you could use her in Trials of Reckoning, which I have done. You can use her in, live PvP, arena. She's just one of those all-around good universal MRs that I think everybody should invest in. Ravi's, now this is in no particular order. I should probably prompt everybody by saying that. I think Ravi's, she's a unique and fun unit with her paladin main. You're going to usually sub Samurai for Hien. She has access to high defense moves and high agility and movement with sub Thief, and her TMR is pretty good with acquired JP up 30%. I think Ravi's should not be within like your top 5 MRs to level, but the JP up sword is so unique, and she's a really fun unit and durable for her kit and for an MR unit in general. I would definitely say consider investing in her. She's definitely been one of my personal favorites to use. Dario. Now, Dario is a unit that I had just recently maxed out. You can see here I don't even have all of his jobs leveled. I don't have his Bravery or Faith organized yet. And he's a unit who, when you need him to be a magic tank and you don't want to invest high resources, or if you don't have a magic tank like Agrius or Rain already, he's going to be really good for you. And he does his job exceptionally well. Not only that, he has access to some really amazing passive abilities to support him in that as well. So you can see he has Shadowrunner, of course, for agility and luck, Holy Knight's protection for max HP defense, Magic Guard as well, so a chance of taking reduced magic damage. He also has access to Shikuchi for more movement, and he has access to even more magic attack resistance and earth resistance. I mean, this guy's a beast, right? He's gonna do work for you. I would say Dario is in the top 5 MRs to level if you do not already have another magic tank. His TMR, I mean, pretty niche. I don't think a lot of people are going to be chasing this TMR, and I think in terms of like magic swords, there are probably a lot better magic swords out there for him than his actual TMR. Adelard. I think Adelard next to Shell and Mont are probably in the top 3 MRs to level. And there's a couple reasons for this. Adelard has served me well in a variety of content, but one of the main reasons is actually his TMR. The Vermilion Sword, Magic 96, Magic Attack up 15, is exceptionally powerful for a lot of sword-wielding magic users in the game, because a lot of swords only have plus magic and slash attack on them. And so if you're a sword wielder using magic attacks, you're not going to be able to get that magic attack up from swords normally, unless you have the Vermilion Sword. Now, there are a lot of situations where a maxed out Lohengrin, depending on the unit, could be better than the Vermilion Sword. However, there's also a lot of situations where, you know, if you're not running maxed out gear, if you're not running maxed out espers, the Vermilion Sword is probably going to be the strongest weapon for your magic sword unit. Definitely a TMR that's critical and important. And Adelard as a unit is very versatile, and he's a unit that, you know, you're not really going to know you need him until you really need him. And what I mean by that is he's a unit that excels in a lot of PvE content, right? So when you need him in tower, he's going to serve you really well. I think specifically where we've seen him really shine more recently is in the actual Shiva Brutal that came out. And for those of you that actually saw my Shiva Brutal guide, Adelard was one of my main composition units in that guide because of his ability to do a high damage jamming thrust as a fire unit to the ice enemies. So he is the fact that we actually use him as an MR unit in relevant brutal content is actually really awesome. And so for that reason alone, and the fact that that wasn't the only time I've used him, I mean, he gets gold stars for me. You're almost always going to have him sub white mage. Personally, you might run him sub red mage, but you know, I think he's mostly used for his jamming thrust and his support abilities. Shadowlinks. Now, this could be, I think if we had a top 5, it would probably be like Chell, Mont, Shadowlinks, and then Adelard, probably at least in the top 4. The reason Shadowlinks is so powerful is a couple reasons. 1, she's free, everybody gets access to her. But 2, she has the access to the ability Dream Within a Dream. Now, if you aren't familiar with Dream Within a Dream, it is a 3-hit dark attack. Now, this is really critical for a lot of raid content that goes out, a lot of Trials of Reckoning content that comes out. As a chaining unit, this is important. It's very important that you're able to chain. It's very important that you're able to build up those damage modifiers, and Shadowlinks really is able to do that. She also has access to high movement abilities, which is just going to really kind of cap it off. Her TMR is actually pretty viable as well. I've actually used it. Now, I don't have a ninja blade that's plus 15 slash attack actually, but I actually use Shadowlink's TMR on her. And in PvE, a lot of units, particularly in tower, where you're going to be running evasion comps quite frequently on the lower levels, are not immune to paralysis. And so having her run around and paralyzing everyone is just great. And she's an amazing, like, must-have unit, I would say. If you're having trouble chaining, or if you're having trouble, you know, putting together like a dark slash team, I would say Shadowlink should probably be your first, because she's going to be a unit that you can actually take into raid content, right? She's going to be viable, she's going to be useful. Yeah, I would say she's just an incredible overall unit. Gaffgarion. If you have Gaffgarion and he's not maxed out, max him out. I think most players who have Gaffgarion have him maxed. He's just an overall great character. He is like, it's pretty much like a Dark Mont. Like, he's like the epitome of what I would think of a brawler class in this game, right? I think Gaffgarion is a better brawler than a lot of UR brawlers, and I actually think he's amazing. His TMR also really good, and it actually was really relevant back in its heyday, before Confusion really became super, you know, mainstay with Agrius. So his TMR also pretty relevant, and you will, you know, you will get, you know, situations where you do want to use him, and he goes onto my roster quite frequently, but he's never like must have right this second. I would say he's probably like a number 6 MR, but he's definitely been nice to have. Grace. If you don't have Ayaka, Grace is a great substitute. You can see her TMR does grant disable. It's not the best TMR out there. I know Grace is used a lot in PvP circles because she has the capability of being lower cost than, say, Ayaka or another healing unit. And she's also very durable, right? So she's going to be one of those units that is really popular if you're into live PvP. You can see she has hella resistances here. So she's just going to take a beating. I would say if you had to choose between like Grace and Cadia, having Grace leveled is definitely the way to go. If you go into her abilities here, she's one of the only healers that actually is MR and has access to full life, which also really puts her in a different position. She also has access to Holy, and she has access to Kiraga. So she has all three of those, and that's actually really rare for any unit that's MR or below. And that's really why she really gets a spot on this list. Mia. As an R unit, Mia is someone who, it's tough to say. I think she's great because she's a thief. You can put her on your mug team. Compared to the other rare units, she's definitely up there in the top 2. I think I have 2 rare units on this list, and Mia is the only one I have 99 right now. And the reason I have her 99 is for my mug team, and that's pretty much it. She does have other abilities, but with the fact that she has lower stats is going to make her kind of irrelevant as a steel time unit. She does have steel heart, I believe. Go in here and just double check. Yeah, I have it. I don't even have it unlocked because I just use her as a steel unit. She actually gets steel time at a very low level as well. Yeah, I would say Mia is a great unit to level for Thief. That's pretty much it. I think in terms of probably the best unit for your bang for your buck in the game is Phoebe. And I think Phoebe fills very similar of a role of Shell, as kind of like a support time mage, but she does it in a way that's, she also boasts a really powerful TMR. So like she has the agility 5 TMR with light attack resistance up on it. So one of 2 pieces of gear in the game that have light attack resistance. Her secondary sub Dragoon, nobody uses that, but let's take a look at her abilities. The thing that really holds her back is her base stats as an SR unit. She is actually one of the earlier units though to get a 120, so it does make her actually even more relevant, I think. She does get Quicken, of course, speed cast for sub time mage, and remember when I was talking about full life with Grace? This is the exact same situation. She is one of the only, or she is, I'm pretty sure, the only MR below unit that has access to full life. So she is going to be an excellent support. She also has access to stop. Now, not all time mages have access to stop, and there are some strategies where stop is really viable. So, her kit is unique, it's powerful, she's good in PvE, and you're going to use her. You're going to use her TMR. To this day, her TMR is still used by me, and I would say, back in the day, I was a big advocate of leveling her and getting her TMR, and people were like, that's a waste of rainbow fragments. I don't care. Phoebe was incredible for me. And I think if anybody thinks that Phoebe's TMR was not worth it in the early days, you're smoking crack, because she was an amazing unit and an amazing TMR. Like, Phoebe is the reason that I cleared Tower without having to reset. If I didn't have Phoebe, fuck my life, I would have just been screwed. Fina. I had to think about whether or not I wanted to put Fina on this list. Fina is one of those units that I think doesn't get enough credit for how powerful she is. But if you are someone who is doing a lower level clear strategy, Fina is one of those units who is very powerful and versatile. So she's going to be able to support, she's going to be able to damage deal, she's going to be able to heal. She just has the whole kit. Her TMR is pretty decent with a chance to grant charm as well. Although most of the days you would probably be using Rosa's bow on her if you pulled Rosa's bow. So I think Fina is quite often overlooked as an MR unit. I don't think she's a top 5 MR unit, but if you're really wanting, if you're a newer player and you're I'm gonna push Tower and this will be my first time to push Tower, Fina might be a unit you consider leveling if you do have Rosa's bow or something. Mont, everybody needs to have him 99. You need to have his TMR. There are situations where Mont's TMR will enable your units to do certain things or certain formations where, you have to have his TMR in order to pull it off because it's prioritized so highly in ability prioritization. It's a really good ability as well. It gives area effect agility up, which is very powerful. You have to have it. I mean, Mont should be every new player's first level 99. He's a viable tank. He, you know, his TMR is required in a lot of stuff. You know, if your units are just fucking up the formation, throw Mont's TMR on. They'll stay back line for a little bit. Like, you need Mont level 99. Salire. Salire is another one of those units that she's a double cost MR unit, so there's that first and foremost. However, she has a great TMR, she has a great kit. It's hard to go wrong. Her TMR gives Magic Maneater up, which is incredible, right? Coming into her abilities here as well, she's Black Mage, but she also has access to White Mage support abilities. So she has access to Holy, she has access to Curata. One thing you'll see, she has access to Flare. She does not have access to Full Life. So she only has access to Raise. So there is that to consider with her. Salire was probably the most hyped up MR unit ever to be released. I remember on the global side when Salire released, people were like, oh my god, Salire's coming out, she's the biggest deal. And I was like, she's cool. Like, she does stuff. And that's kind of how I feel about Salire right now. Like, she's cool, she does stuff, she's a lot better than other MRs that are out there. You're probably not going to see her in any primary formations anytime soon. She's going to be really powerful in PvE. She's going to be, you know, she's going to be good. She's going to be powerful. That's kind of how I feel about her. She's not going to be someone you see substituted in. Like, if you want a support unit, I feel like Grace would be a better support unit with access to Full Life, or potentially, you know, depending on the situation, Shell or Phoebe if you're wanting Quicken or something like that. So that's kind of my gut feeling on Salire. I know a lot of people would probably put her in their top 5. I'm going to say, you know, maybe she is top 5 because of her TMR being so powerful if you are running magic comps, particularly with Sakura coming out. Maybe she is top 5 for you. Hard for me to say. Sosha is one of those units where she has a huge fan base, and I have her maxed out, but I don't have her, like, you can see here, her bravery is not maxed, her faith, you know, like, she's unlocked to 99, but she's only at 89, and I've had her maxed out for a long time because I've had her TMR, and you can see I haven't even, like, invested in her jobs at all. And the reason for that is, once you get to, like, MR below melee units, particularly like SR and below, their base stats are so hugely different compared to UR units that for a lot of content, they are not going to be relevant. You might be able to use them on floors for, like, tower, but a lot of PvE content, they're not going to be relevant unless they're a support in some capacity. The reason Sosha's on this list, though, is because I am a huge fan of her TMR. And the reason I'm a huge fan of her TMR is it's an accessory with a high amount of defense, a high amount of accuracy, and it gives ice attack resistance up. Those are all good things to have. Having access to ice resistance has always been good. Ice units, I feel like, have always been in the meta, no matter what you're doing. So for that reason alone, I'm definitely going to put Sosha on this list, just because I think for that reason alone, she's good. You could probably make a case, you know, that she's decent and relevant, and you could make her an attack unit. I think she's never going to be, like, even her 120 EX is probably never going to be particularly relevant, but you might use her in tower. I don't think it's going to be like Phoebe or Chell, where it's like you need a high agility Quicken unit, right? So we're just going to put her off to the side. Miche is the second rare unit that I think you should invest in. And you can see my Miche is only level 80. I actually held off on awakening him to max. His faith's not capped. That's because he doesn't have a TMR that's really, like, dying interesting to me. It just basically gives defensive magic, and it gives a low amount of magic. Where Miche, it really surprises you, and what I've used Miche for is for his mastery ability, and a lot of people don't know what his mastery ability is. So it has activation time minus 75% and plantoid killer plus 50. So what activation time minus 75% means is he casts all of his spells at 4 times the normal speed. So if you are casting Flare, for example, let's go look at his Flare. And you look at the detailed description of Flare, and it has a cast speed of 120. He's going to cast it at 250, whereas most units would cast it at 1000. You don't know the details of what I'm talking about, it's okay. Cast speed can be a pretty confusing thing. Keep in mind, though, at a max level, Flare is going to have a cast speed of 200, so it's only going to take 1 turn, right? 1 turn worth of CT for him to cast Flare. So he is an exceptionally fast casting unit. He's a unit that I've had on my back burner for a long time that, you know, I've thrown in Tower once or twice. I have Resonance on him. I'm really excited to be able to max him relatively easy, and I'm kind of excited to see what his 120 brings, particularly with his fast attacking speed. Last unit on the list, Zazan. The only normal unit in the game, the unit that I don't have maxed, and I don't particularly like Zazan. The one thing Zazan does have, though, that nobody else in the game has is the highest movement in the game. That's pretty much it. There are strategies, you know, in Arena, if you're here for the memes, where, you know, you can have Zazan run forward, charm an enemy, and, you know, they can do nothing about it. That's kind of what Zazan's for. He's here for a meme. Not a huge fan of him. His TMR is pretty shit. His base stats are pretty shit. But if you want to meme hard, you should level Zazan. He's the only normal unit that you're going to be able to use normal fragments for. Why not, right? Maybe he'll help you out someday. As always, everybody, if you do want to support me, make sure you use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. We do have dig.gs/offer coming out back later this week. Probably Tuesday, right before the potential Sakura release. And I know there's rumors that it's going to be Summer Ketone. I don't think it's going to be Summer Ketone, guys. Like, I know y'all want the swimsuit units. It's just not going to happen. All right, guys. As always, have a great rest of your day. I'll probably see you guys on stream later tonight. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.